Welcome everybody. Thank you for attending today's Fall Sports Media Day. We're going to start things off with soccer, fresh off a 2-0 exhibition win against Colorado College last night. We've got head coach Danny Sanchez in his 14th season, and senior goalkeeper Jordy Nytes, and junior Ava Priest. So Danny, you want to open with expectations, look out for this season, and then we'll open it to questions.
Sure. Thanks everyone for coming. I know that we're the biggest person you're going to interview today, so we appreciate it. We'll get us out of the way right off the bat. Yeah, we're as we always say, we're excited for the season, but we are. We feel we have a very experienced group coming back. We only have 24 players on our team, and 12 of them yesterday was their first match at Prenup, so it's going to take a little time maybe to find their cohesion, even though some of those transfers were here in the spring. But we feel that we have the potential to have a fantastic season. Last year we had a very good year, as you probably know or may not know. We won our first round match at the University of Georgia, and then we fell in our second match to Wake Forest, who lost the national championship 1-0. So we feel we're on the cusp of doing something special, and we have a lot of very good players returning. We lost some great players. Obviously, our all-time leading scorer, Shira James, two-time captain, Rachel Rosen, and some other key seniors last year. However, we feel that along with the women up here with me right now, and some of our other players and our transfers, that I think we're even deeper than we were last year. We had a stretch in the middle of the season last year where we struggled to score some goals. We had a lot of draws in conference play, which really hurt our conference standing and hurt our RPI, but we only lost 2 of our 11 conference games. So we feel good about that going into conference play. Obviously, last night was a good start. It was kind of what you think for a scrimmage. Credit to Colorado College. I thought they played well, and we played well too. Maybe a little disappointed not to get some more goals, but that's soccer. But they don't count. Everybody's 0-0 starting next Thursday, and next Thursday is a huge one for us. Michigan State's coming off of 2 Sweet 16 in a row appearances, Big Ten, either regular season or conference tournament titles the last 2 years, ranked 12th, one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the Big Ten this year, a great coach, a great program. These are the type of big games we'd love to get in Boulder, where we'll be going back to East Lansing next year, but these are the type of games we really love to get in Boulder, and we're excited to host them next Thursday at 7 p.m. So there you go, Seth.
Danny, you have a good chunk of returning players, but you also have a number of transfers coming in that should make an impact. I guess, what did you learn about that mix of group last night at the exhibition?
Yeah, fortunately, 5 of them were with us in the spring. Kaylee Swerenga, who started last night, missed the spring because of injury, but she's back. But the other 4, Lexi Meyer, Reagan Kochow, Jordan Whitaker, and Riley McDonald were with us spring. But even Riley was dinged up a lot of the spring as well. So even though they were here in the spring, they really didn't. I don't know that we really found a rhythm with them, with our group. So as we look going forward, those transfers are all very experienced players, very talented, and then you had Kenzie Gillespie as well from Kansas State as a grad transfer. So they're all experienced players. So I think they should be able to connect with the 6 freshmen sooner than later. But what we learned is kind of what we thought. It was just good for some of those players just to get a match under their belt at Prenup as we geared towards next Thursday.
Coach, kind of building off that with the transfers, 5 of the 6 transfers are from the state of Colorado. Was that a conscious effort you had going into the portal, or just kind of how it shook out? It's our 14th season, and you can look back at our program, and there's at least 1 or 2 impactful Colorado transfers every year. We recruit them hard, just like Jordy out of high school, and Jordy went to Oklahoma State her freshman year, and Fortunately for us, we never burn bridges, and we keep the relationships going. We have great relationships with the club coaches, and if they're looking for a change, we always have open arms. Now, with roster limits and so forth, we won't be able to accommodate everybody. Even this year, we couldn't. There was other players that wanted to come back, and we just simply didn't have room or scholarship money for them. But I think getting those 5 Colorado kids is a little bit unique, but all super talented, all come from great clubs. All very motivated to represent the state and to represent our program. So we'd love to have them when they're 18, but we'll take them when they're 20 as well. But we feel within that group there's some special players.
Hey, for Ava and Jordy, as you guys are more experienced players, how do you guys take that leadership role and really help make sure that this group becomes more cohesive and gels before the season starts?
I think personally for me, a lot of this has to do with things off the field as well. So like building personal relationships with each of the players, especially like the freshmen that are coming in young, they're a little bit scared, a little bit nervous. So just making them feel like it's like a safe place and like encouraging them to play with confidence.
Yeah, and I think it's really important in the off season, like in the spring and in the summer, to kind of start to build those relationships because, you know, we get here and we have about a month before we start playing games. So it's really important to just kind of reach out to the players that are coming in and also just, you know, keeping connections with each other really tight because I talk to Ava and like Jamie and all these people every single day. So it's important that we like lean on each other and like figure out ways to incorporate the group and make everybody feel like they're part of the same team. And then also, of course, leaning on the coaching staff to be helpful like in leading the team on the field, which is another huge piece of it.
Coach, clearly the House settlement has many different implications, and it's very complicated, I would say, for the casual fan to follow. How does it affect your sport, and do you see it being a long-term benefit?
Well, I think big picture, something had to be done, you know, so something was done. Like I said before when I was talking to Pat, there's a House settlement, but I don't think anything's been settled. I think this for next year or two is going to really, it's going to take some time to shake out as everybody finds a way to game the system a little bit. But at our level, you know, there's a roster limit now, which historically we've always carried a smaller roster for a myriad of reasons, mostly just team culture. Programs are carrying 30, 35, 40 players, and you dress 22. So do the math. Half your team was, not only were they not even traveling, they weren't even dressing, so how are they really part of the team? So we wanted players that are competing to play, and that's part of our recruiting strategy, and part of the reason we get a lot of good recruits is like, hey, you're going to have an opportunity to come in and play right away. I think the discrepancy in scholarships is going to be something that'll be addressed, I think, long term. I think the short term, I think the athletic department has done a very good job of putting a plan in place to be able to compete at the highest level with all of our sports. And how it is today, it's not going to how it's going to be next year. It's not going to how it's going to be in 2027 class. It's going to constantly evolve. And we know that we're valued within this department. We know that we're a priority. And when I say we, all the sports. And that we'll be taken care of to compete for and win championships because that's our objective for all of our sports. So even though there's a settlement, I think it's going to be probably a few years before it's really settled as far as what it's going to look like. How it looks like this year, next year is not going to how it's going to look like in 3 or 4 years for any of the sports, and especially for us.
Coach, to kind of piggyback off that, good question there. I guess, given the roster size, does it make you reassess how you build your team, how you build your roster? And then the second part of that would be, how do you balance the joy for what you love to do, which is coaching, with the NIL and all the auxiliary things?
You know, I think, well, first of all, like I said, if we were a program that carried 32, 34 players, and now there's a lot of schools around the country just had to cut kids. I think a lot of schools use that as an excuse to cut kids that they probably didn't want in their program, which teach their own. I mean, for us, obviously, we weren't in that situation. You know, we're under our limit anyway, so it was a kind of a moot point. But I think you do have to be careful as far as the players that you bring in because, you know, at the end of the day, a player like Ava Priest, you know, she committed end of June. You know, she decided to graduate a year early from Boulder High School, so it wasn't like a player that we were planning on. but obviously a fantastic player that we added to the program late. Well, if we're at our limit, then there would be a problem, right? So I think that's going to be an issue maybe down the road where it wasn't in the past. If we're at 26, 27 players and all of a sudden 2 or 3 players show up, transfers late in the game, now the transfer window kind of cleans that up a little bit. So you kind of know what you have by the middle of May with that second window. The second piece, I think, the revenue sharing, I think for outside of the 2 or 3 sports, I don't think it's that big of a deal. At the end of the day, as we all know, there's $20.5 million. And it doesn't matter if you're Colorado or you're Oklahoma or you're anywhere, we know where the majority of that money's going, and it's no different. It's just, so I think when the first question was, is it, like Papa Sanchez, my dad said, life's not fair, but I think at the end of the day, I don't think there's a big discrepancy at the Olympic sport level for that. We have to be creative. Our players will have NIL opportunities, including these players, to make extra revenue. I think for the reason it really was supposed to be, like using their name, image, and likeness to make money, not just to pay somebody. So I think it's legit what's going to happen with this third party overseeing these things, these deals. So our players will still have those opportunities, and there's a lot of people that want to invest in our women in our program. But I think as far as revenue share, I think for us, it's probably number 20 on the list of priorities.
For Ava, Danny just talked about how you committed late a couple years ago. I had a solid freshman season, but really seemed to have a breakout year last year. Going into year 3, how do you plan and expect to build on that?
I do have high expectations for myself and this team this year. And I think with a lot of these new transfers and new incoming freshmen, just working with them and like the stronger your team is, the better like you can play. So just building off of them and hopefully I can do better than I did last year. Just keep progressing.
Ava's very hard on herself, and I don't think at times she realizes her potential. She came in as, she was 16 years old in preseason, her first year. So technically she should still be going in her sophomore year. We moved her a different spot last year, and she was, fantastic at the end of the year. She trained this summer with an NWSL team for a couple weeks, which was another great experience. She was in a national team camp finally, which is another great experience. So I think she's going to have even a more breakout season this year. And that's what you need. At the end of the day, if we're going to compete for championships, by osmosis, the players that maybe don't play are going to get better. But at the end of the day, if you're going to win a championship, your best players have to be better. And that's the task we put on Ava and some of our other players.
Jordy, solo captain this year, your second year with the armband, but how is that going to differ this year for you, and maybe different role than last year, and how do you approach it?
I mean, if you put it that way, just talking about it like solo captain, it definitely puts more expectations on like what it means to like carry the weight and like be the leader on the team. But I don't really see it that way personally. I think every single person has a voice on the team and has a role and has an opportunity to really lead in whatever way that is, whether it's on the field, off the field. I think it definitely means I'm going to have to build more relationships quicker, seeing as, our first huge game is coming up on Thursday. So I have to lean on my teammates a lot more, and just, people need to be able to do their job, including myself, and I have to put a lot of trust in the coaching staff and all the players that are on the field, and just be able to lean on each other and be the best captain I can for everybody.
I think, Seth, everywhere in the world there's one captain. And in the society we live in now, you guys will see her come to the games, there'll be 5 captains over there in captain's bands. We're not a proud participation. Jordy was the clear captain, the clear vote from the team. There's other players that got support, and like Jordy said, we'll lean on them, but she's the captain, she's the leader of the team, she's the one that's held to the higher standard within our program, held to a higher standard than everybody else, and she understands that. But she also has a coaching staff that has her back, but we also have a leader on the field that has our back, and that's why I feel we'll be successful.
Jordan, last year you were one of the best goalkeepers in the nation, but like Coach kind of talked about, you guys struggled a lot to score goals, and I think it was October was a really tough month offensively. As captain, but also as the goalkeeper that is kind of you've been perfect, you were doing everything right. Now the offense isn't keeping up the end of the bargain, get a lot of draws. How do you kind of manage that balance of not trying to be too hard on everybody of, I've been perfect, you guys got to do it, but you're the captain, you're the leader of this team?
Yeah, I think my role really, you can be hard on people in the moment or things get emotional on the field or whatever, but at the end of the day, my job is to keep everybody positive and everybody on the same track. Even if we're not scoring goals, if we're keeping them out of the net, then we're still doing something right. So if we can, as a defensive unit, continue to do that, that will encourage our offense to do more for us, and we can just push for each other. And we got there eventually. We came around that hard piece of adversity, and we were able to finally start scoring some goals. And as you all know, we had a pretty successful season, going 2 rounds in the tournament, which is impressive after having kind of a stretch like that. So as long as I'm able to keep everybody positive and thinking, we can still, compete for a championship, and we can still try to get to the Sweet 16. If that's the mentality, then that's what my job is.
Okay. Thank you, guys. That concludes.
Awesome. Morning, everybody. Moving forward with the volleyball portion of Fall Sports Media today, we have head coach Jesse Mahoney entering his 10th season, junior pin attacker Sydney Jordan, senior defensive specialist libero Sarah Morton, and junior middle blocker Cayla Payne. And we'll start with season expectations from coach, and then we'll open for questions.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We just started practice this week. We've had 4 practices in. We got to start a little bit earlier this season than normal. The NCAA allowed a waiver process for teams to start a little bit early. We have a small group right now. We're waiting for some of our international players to get back into the country. So we only have 12 people on our roster. So we've been going a little bit slow so far, but excited for the progress even in the first week, especially bringing along some of our freshmen. We have 3 freshmen here, transfer, and Peyton Neal here as well. So we're excited to get started. Expectations for the season. I just listened to Danny talk about their great season last year. Our start to our season is to kind of put last season behind us a little bit. We want to learn from it, but it was a disappointing season for everyone in our program. So I've been gratified that we had a great spring. We trained really well. I think we've grown. Last year we relied on 4 or 5 freshmen and sophomores that got a lot of swings for us and a lot of playing time. This year we don't have that excuse because we're going to rely on 4 or 5 upperclassmen who are going to do quite a bit for us. And this group up here and our entire team, I think, really took lessons from last season to heart and have come into this summer and into this training period in the fall with really a renewed sense of urgency in what we're doing, and I've been really excited about that. We've got a really good preseason schedule ahead of us, and as always, a tough conference slate. I think we'll play half of our matches this year again will be against tournament competition. So we'll play 30 matches, 15 or 16 of them will be against tournament teams, which is great. That's where we want to be. We just have to start competing a little bit better for them, but I think we have the people in place to do that, and we're really looking forward to it.
Jesse, you mentioned last season, I guess going into this year, obviously an inconsistent year last year. Do you feel like there's any aspect of the team that you might be able to kind of hang your hat on and expect from game to game, whether it's offense or defense, passing? Is there one aspect you think will be improved that you can maybe count on game to game?
Well, I'm counting on every portion of our play to improve, to be honest. I think we'll be a better passing team for sure. I think we've gotten better in that in the spring, and we brought in players that can help us there. I think we'll be a better defensive team. And I think that, as the season went on last year, we kind of, it was really the first year here where we weren't as good in the second half as we were in the first half. And that's something that we've, as a coaching staff and as a program, we pride ourselves on. I don't see that happening this year. You know, I think we're going to get better as the season goes on. And, you know, you asked for specifics. I'm not giving you anything specific. We need to be better in every phase.
Coach, I think it was 2 years ago, you guys nearly missed out on the tournament, you lost a lot of your starters from that year, and you used Sky, Lexi, pretty much the entire starting lineup ended up leaving. Then last year was that transitional year, a lot of freshmen. This year you kind of have the chance to return a lot of your major contributors. How important has that been? I know you said you're only 4 practices in, missing a lot of players still, but how is that? How have you seen that throughout the spring and then throughout this early fall season?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's no substitute for age and experience, you know, and so I can remember, you know, Cayla and Sid as freshmen and how, you know, how hard it was for them to kind of come up to speed on certain things. Not harder than anyone else, just it's a process, right? And now they are bringing other people up to speed on things, right? Because they're comfortable in what they're doing. And that's going to carry over to being on the floor, right? And competing. And I think we played 9 or 10 5-set matches last year, you know, that, you know, which was good for us and on one hand, and also some of those matches we need to win in three or four, right? And that's a little bit of a product of age and experience and just comfortability.
For Sydney, when you look at this team, what have the conversations been like with the leadership, and what are the kind of expectations for you guys coming into this season?
Pull this towards me. Yeah, that's a great question. We actually have had multiple team meetings with just us as a team, fully laying out our goals for the season, fully laying out the process and what we expect of ourselves and what we expect of each other, which I think is a little bit different than we've done in previous years. We're really trying to reset the culture, I would say. This is definitely a year of culture change, and that's something that we've really been honing in on this week especially.
For Cayla, I asked Sydney a little bit about this the other day, but for your junior class, you all played quite a bit last year as sophomores, you know, kind of stepping into bigger starting roles. Mm-hmm. And obviously an up and down year, as Jesse said, you know, maybe a little disappointing, but how did you kind of weather those ups and downs, and you know, how maybe excited or enthusiastic is everyone that you've kind of come back intact and can maybe build on that?
Yeah, I think, like you said, definitely like we had ups and downs last year, but I think, like Sydney said, we're really working to like change the team culture, and that starts with expectations, and we have an expectation of how we all need to perform and how we need to get better. And especially for me, I have high expectations of where I need to be. Like looking at my stats from last year, I know that they need to be better, and I know that I can perform a lot better than what I did. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that gives me goals in my head that I can like strive for. And I think that that's good to keep those in mind throughout every practice and every game, like going into preseason and just going into the season in general, like making sure that everyone knows that those goals are set in place and that we're all trying to work to get better.
Hey, Coach, you talked in your opening statement about some of the newcomers in this 2025 class, a few incoming freshmen and a transfer. What kind of just has you generally excited about that group of newcomers?
I mean, I'm excited about all of them. You know, Inez Lasada, who's not here yet, she still needs a visa meeting, but she, you know, was the second highest point scorer in the European Championships this year in her age group. She's going to help us. She's got a great arm. She's going to help us score. Audrey, freshman setter, I think is one of the more physical setters we've had in this program before, and she has an opportunity to, you know, as she kind of grows and learns our system, I think she can eventually be something special. Peyton Neal, who's a transfer by way of Marshall, is just a fantastic defensive player. Has experience as a libero, but she's going to bolster us as well. Livia has an opportunity. You know, she was, I think, the #1 point scorer in the state of Michigan last year as a freshman, right? So, or as a senior in high school. So she can score as well. They just show a lot of potential, you know, but you know, they still need to figure out their place here and figure out our systems and things like that. But we're really excited about what they're doing so far.
Coach, kind of following off of what we spoke about with Danny, with the house settlement, et cetera, I guess is a bit of a two-parter. Firstly, how far into recruiting pitches do you get where you have to deal with NIL, and what percentage of your conversations are circulated around that?
Well, it's tough for me to say a percentage. Those, the class of 2027 is the class that we just finished recruiting, so everything is a couple years out, and like Danny alluded to, things change month to month, year to year, and so the conversations, everyone has questions, right? Club directors, players, parents, and there's a lot of false information out there as well. So we try to educate as much as we can, try to give them a clear picture of what Colorado has to offer in all phases, not just from a monetary standpoint. But yeah, it's definitely part of the conversation now.
For all three of the players, how much of that is a factor to you guys? How much are you thinking about that?
I'll start off. Honestly, I think that being a part of a program that feels like home and that I feel like I'm truly valued, that matters more to me than any kind of money. It's kind of hard to disclose a lot of things, but ultimately, like for me personally, I want to be here. This is home for me, and that's ultimately what's most important for me.
I'm just gonna have to lean over, sorry. Yeah, being a transfer myself included, I know we've talked about that a little bit. It's not about the money and it's not really about anything other than my own experience. I truly love Colorado. I love all of the people here, Boulder, Denver, this whole area is amazing. And that in itself is the biggest gift I can ask for. And so I'm just so lucky to be a part of a program that is so welcoming and accepting, and no amount of money could ever top that, in my opinion.
Yeah, their answers are a little bit better than mine. I would say I haven't really thought about it much. I don't really even know like what goes into that, but I like it here, and yeah, I like playing here, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Sydney, the Big 12 is a bit of a monster. Last year, 5 of your opponents were ranked. But in order to get to the tournament, you're going to have to beat those teams. How do you embrace that challenge but not let it wear you down?
Yeah, I think that throughout the season, that's kind of something that we talk about. It gets, day in, day out, it gets hard, and then sometimes stretches are difficult, and you're playing top 10 team in the country, and so, but I do think that this year is the year that we can kind of offset some of those things and start to flip the script with that. We know that we're going to have to beat a lot of ranked opponents in order to make it to the tournament, in the Big 12 especially. You normally need to be within like the top 5 or 6 in order to make it to the tournament within this conference. So we do know that it's going to be important for us to have a lot of upsets, as well as win the games that we should win, as well. So the ones that are kind of like that.
For Coach and any of the players that feel passionate about it, teams always talk about culture. What are the key components in your mind to a winning culture? And you've talked about changing the culture. What's the challenge of that when you're dealing with the same group of people? I mean, it's not a fresh slate. It's people that experience a culture that you want to change. So what's the key components of winning culture, and how do you change it, especially with a lot of holdover?
I think for us, they're talking about changing the culture. I don't think our culture was in a bad place. I think last year brought into relief a lot of things that maybe were maybe issues on the edge, and I think that this group wants to make sure that they live up to their potential and leave a legacy here in this program. The biggest thing, and they've all kind of talked about a version of this, is this group and this place feels like home to them. We really feel like a family, and everyone wants to work for the betterment of themselves, but really for the betterment of the group, and that's really the biggest thing that I think this group has brought to our team culture.
Sorry. I was just going to reach a little bit more. I'm sorry. I think it's safe to say that our program's hungry, that we're not settling for anything less. We're not settling for anything that happened last year either. Last year's out of our mind, and we're moving on. And all of our locker room conversations, all of our practice conversations goes into we are hungry and we're ready for more, and we're ready to win.
For Sydney and Cayla, and then if Coach would like to add anything, your guys' class has been really productive, even since you guys were freshmen. I remember, Cayla, you took the starting job in the middle of your freshman year. You guys have been really productive then. You were really productive last year. Like Coach said, the sophomore class was kind of the brunt of the production, and now you guys are upperclassmen. You guys are leaders of the team. What have you guys seen from your class and the evolution over the last 2.5 years, and what you're kind of expecting from you guys in this season?
I think for me, the big thing that I've seen is more ease. Like we know what we're doing. Our systems are complicated, honestly, and I think that like even in the first week, I'm just seeing that we all know so well what we're doing, and I think that like we all have so much room for improvement. Like I know myself, I feel that I did not perform to the standard that I could have last year, and I know that moving forward as a class, we're only going to get better. And so I'm really excited for our group, not only as a class, but as a team, just because I know that the jump from your sophomore to junior year, you gain a lot of experience, you gain a lot of insight. So I'm excited to see what that looks like for us.
Yeah, I think also now we have like a very clear set of like expectations from like coach and from each other. And I think just as we've like grown into like this role as like now being a junior, you just learn to like read the game better, and like, you know, like your volleyball IQ goes up, and like, you know, I feel more confident in my skills and like the way that I can perform on the court. And that's just from honestly experience. Like you can't get that really any other way, but I feel like that, yeah, like Sydney said, that jump from sophomore to junior year is pretty big, and I feel like we're all ready to, everyone in my class is ready to like take that on and perform to our highest standard.
Coach, given the unsettled nature of college sports right now, the unsettled nature of college sports right now, and I know that you were talking about you've recruited out to 2027, but how does the unsettled nature, how does that affect your roster construction maybe going forward, or do you have to change the way you perceive or recruit or anything like that?
I mean, the short answer is yes. You know, obviously you have to adjust on the fly. The house settlement was a little bit on the fly. We kind of knew what was coming, but our roster ended up being 16 this last year, and so that took some adjusting for us. And we haven't really been a program that cycles players in and out. You know, we've had a lot of staying power with the athletes that we've had here, and you know, we've brought maybe one transfer in maybe each season since the portal has opened, and so we haven't had a lot of kind of like creating a new roster year to year, which I think I've been happy for that, because we want to build players and build culture and win that way, and so there's uncertainty, but it hasn't been anything we haven't been able to manage, I guess.
I got one, Coach. Sorry. I date back to when we just had outside hitters. What is a pin hitter? Right side, opposite, left side, outside. What's a pin hitter?
Pin hitter is someone who can hit on both pins, so can hit on the outside on the left, or on the right side, or the opposite. It's just there's 6 different names, so we just call them a pin because they do both. And really, we have you know, one player who's not here, Lily Dwinell, who's kind of a true pin player. She hits on both pins really well. Sid can hit on the right okay.
All right, if there's no other questions, I think we'll wrap it up. But Colorado Volleyball opens the season on August 29th in Wyoming against Cleveland State, and then we open at home on September 12th against Arkansas. Thank you, guys.
Be there.